Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Single Malt Review, brought to you by Sybil. Off you go. There we are. And this whiskey belongs to our cameraman and the man who makes all the bits work, the third member of the Single Malt Review who you don't see too often. Sam, what have you got for us?
Got a lovely Gordon and Macphail private collection.
Oh,
from,
you and
Caol
your
Ila.
red wine finishes.
Yep, you know it.
It's another one.
So a 14-year-old Caol Ila, which spent its last 18 months in a red wine barrel, in this case a Syrah barrel. Or if you want to get all Antipodean, it'll be Shiraz.
It would be, yes, Hermitage. If someone says Hermitage, they mean Shiraz. They're just, or rather, Syrah. Shiraz would be the Australian nomenclature. They're just trying to be French and clever.
I think in this case the barrel is actually from the particular regions which lets it call itself Hermitage.
Certainly the Hermitage appellation,
Yes.
as they like to call them. So it's not quite cask strength, it's 45%, and although it doesn't say what this first barrel that it spent the majority of its time in, I'm going to say it was probably bourbon because that would make the most sense. You wouldn't want to have a deeply expressive sherried whiskey that would then blow up the character of the finish you wanted to put it on. This should be all about this last 18 months or so spent in this Syrah cask and the various nuance that we'll hope this one lends to it.
I'm rather excited to try it because red wine finishes are so few and far between.
They're sort of at the cutting edge, really. Still very, very experimental. I don't think anyone's decided whether they're a goer or not, but they've certainly provided some astonishingly popular whiskies. If anyone's tried to ever get a bottle of the Springbanks red wine releases when they pop up, we had a rather close to home release from a New Zealand Pinot Noir cask from Central Otago, and that was extremely difficult to get. They sell out very, very quickly, so they're certainly popular with someone, in addition to our cameraman. So you could almost say that looks like a rosé, so that's extremely French of it. So it has, if nothing else, gained a good deal of colour from its time in the cask. And
Mine has gained a good deal of wildlife in the form of this fruit fly, so I'll retrieve him.
Never mind.
Rescue, hopefully.
Never mind.
Oh, goodness.
And that's interesting because getting a red tint out of it, that's not just taking on colour from the wood. That actually means it's taking on colour from some residual effect of the actual wine.
It's soaked into the barrel well enough that we're getting
the Hermitage casks that it was spent that 18 months in, they're just French oak. There's nothing particularly special about those. So this red tint is genuinely from the wine. I think that's like frightening, actually. That means there's sort of wine floating around in here. But I guess we'll see how it goes.
Now, Caol Ila I've always kind of admired because they're strongly peated without going into comedic absurdity like some of the Islay distilleries. They keep it strong but restrained enough to still be, at least sensible. And that is smelling strongly of it.
Yep. That is a peated whiskey, all right, but I think I can already smell what the finish is bringing. There's a distinct strawberry character.
Yeah, I'm getting that too. It reminds me of the port-matured Kilhoman or Glenmorangie.
It's the strangest sensation of a salty strawberry jam that I'm smelling. It's quite interestingly juxtaposed. And the sort of dry, not quite tarry, the more sort of dry, tinder, ropey peat of Caol Ila that doesn't have quite that sort of a seaweed oyster tang that your Lefroigs and your Ardbegs do. It's slightly more of a kindled dry peat that you get from Caol Ila, usually anyway. That is certainly there in force. They certainly didn't go for a unpeated or even a less peated Caol Ila. This is bringing it with full force. So let's see, before we accumulate too many more fruit flies, although they seem to prefer yours for some reason, what's on the palate?
Speaking of fruit flies, there's some surprising fruit in there. Quinces, grapefruit.
That's really very fruity, and it's quite fresh and quite sweet. The fruits are there, and the fruits are juicy. Soft-skinned fruits as well. There's some sort of very, very ripe peach plum. Let's see. Some orange, quite a lot of orange actually. And it's quite weird because it all kind of runs alongside that dry peatiness. So it's quite difficult to pick things out because one is constantly rising above the other for dominance. So
The peat is expressive, but still fairly mild, even by Caol Ila standards.
no, this is definitely going into the weird whiskey spectrum. It's a lot of things all at once. If I'd been making this, not that I'm a master blender, the first thing I would have tried would be to use a only very lightly peated whiskey as the framework to put the wine on, but I'm sure they had that idea as well because it seems very simple. So they've gone for the fully peated Caol Ila for a reason, and it could be that this dynamic juxtaposition of the flavours was exactly what they were looking for, because I can't say it's not compelling. It's really quite an exciting whiskey to drink. Let's try it with water.
That's opening up some of those more maritime smells. A little bit of salt, some oysters and prawns.
Significantly saltier. Briny, almost.
Wow. And on the tongue too, that is tasting distinctly salty now, which it did not before to me. Like a salty cracker.
Oh, it's gone far more marine with that addition of water, which is slightly strange. I'm not sure quite why it would do that. Water normally brings out the fruit in a whiskey, but in this case, it's going
alchemical interaction with the
slightly,
red wine influence.
slightly the other way. I think the red wine was slightly more obvious before the addition of water. Goodness me, I'm not even sure what that was. Never mind. No, I think the water has caused it to subside just a little bit, and this is tasting more like a good but a normal Caol Ila. Still extremely nice though, and there's still that little hint of strawberries ringing out over it.
I like it. It's a unique interaction of flavours. Although I can't really, let's say the red wine has kind of diminished with the addition of water. It wasn't especially profound beforehand in the flavour. I'd like to be able to taste more of a red wine.
Just for that 18 months, you're only going to see a little bit of it. And I won't use that as a platform for my upcoming tirade against finishers, because it's not my favourite practice, finishing whiskey. I'm more of a fan of complete maturation. I think it yields a more... Goodness me, the neighbours are blowing something up. It yields a more genuine flavour to the finished product. However, what this is extremely exciting and extremely different. So, was I to give it a score, and it's tricky to give it a score because it's such a unusual whiskey, I'd probably give it a 78. What are your thoughts?
Actually, while there's a lot I like about this, it's not as compelling. I would like to be able to really taste the red wine influence in something, which would mean less peat. Peat has, for me, the tendency to drown out whatever else might be there. So this is just a bit peaty, more than I'd like, and a little bit less red wine even I'd like. So I'm going to give it a 70. It's still good whiskey, just it's lacking kind of their specialness, some unique expressions I would really like to find.
The peat is an odd choice in this one. I'd love to know the thought process behind why they went for the fully peated example, because I'm just still left with the lingering thought that this would have been more of a winey experience if they went for an unpeated or a less peated.
No, it just wouldn't be really be a Caol Ila then. People wouldn't be able to draw a comparison, I suppose.
Who knows the minds of the distillers? Really,
this is good for comparing to a regular Caol Ila. If you taste this versus standard Caol Ila, you can really see the difference the red wine makes.
Certainly from the colour up. But at any rate, if anyone's looking for this one, I think it's probably available, as long as you're watching this fairly close to
the 2015 release. Yes.
Present date. It was only bottled in April, so it would be a bit of a shame if it already sold out. I'm fairly sure it's still available down where we are, so if you're intrigued, then do take a look around and you may just find it. But at any rate, this has been the Single Malt Review. Until next time, Slunja. Let us know if we can track something down for you in the meantime. Beep.